So what's up?
Hey, how's it going?
It's good. So I know it's been a long time since we've seen each other here, but
Yes, way too
since
long.
yeah, exactly. We just anybody that's listening to that we just got back from a networking meeting last night actually that it was part of the We Are the They group and Arete. Met a lot of great people in
Great
that.
guys.
Yeah, a lot of great individuals in that really are trying to like step up and like be the most that they can be, which is really what this is all about, and it really captures kind of that mindset, if you will. Um, but yeah, what was your kind of biggest takeaways from some of our conversations there?
What I really liked is just how open and friendly every single person was. Just walking into the room from the very beginning of when I got there, they had already got rocking and rolling, and every single person was friendly and introduced themselves, went out of their way, took a moment out of the hand that they were playing and stuff through some of the games they were playing, and said, "Hey," and introduced themselves, and just overwhelmingly welcome. So that was pretty cool.
Yeah, I think I think that actually goes into a great topic here, and that where we will have like whatever you manifest in that, and that you will have more of. So when you have the topic, and that when you're sitting in a room, um, there is however you approach or go into an experience with the mindset, and that would greatly determine kind of your outcome, right? So it's kind of like it's real world version of manifesting. There's like the voodoo energy work nonsense and that, which I don't believe for rats, but I do believe in essence, and that what the root energy, like Buddhism version of that, which is like, hey, whatever you give, you will receive. That's more of the karma type stuff, because that's a universal law at that point, right?
Mm.
Meaning that it is a universal understood principle that, like, if I go in and have a pissy attitude, chances are I'm going to get a pissy attitude back from people, right?
Right.
If
You
I
really
go
will.
into that experience, it was like, hey, because I mean, it was like almost an hour and a half, almost 2 hour drive for me, right?
Yeah.
And to only be there for an hour and then drive back, it's hard to justify that a lot of the time and have it make sense in that. But since I went there with the mentality is like, hey, you know what? I'm going to meet some great individuals in that. I'm going to figure out like how we can work together. I'm going to make the most of the time and that make some great, worst case scenario, I make some great friends, right?
Yeah. Worst case, you make some great friends, right?
Yeah. And so every interaction is already on the basis that they're a good friend of mine. Every single interaction that I have moving forward, and that is going to be on that basis. That I'll make sure that, like, hey, I'm going to treat them with respect. I'm going to do everything else that I can do, learn about them, actually try to see how I can help them. And that I'm not looking to see, because a lot of
Yeah.
people will go to that and it's like, hey, how can I profit off of these? And when
Right.
you go into something with a selfish desire, I found that usually will always bite you
Yeah.
in the first.
Short-lived.
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. In fact, one of
Yeah.
them was saying,
Yeah.
one of the other groups that they used to be a part of, that's where it seemed like it was like, how much money can I make off of this person? That was kind of like the mentality and things and stuff. So, but, you go into with a service first attitude of who they are and how can I help them out. There's nowhere in there to just say, hey, how can I help you out and how much money can I make off of you? That wasn't even like on the spectrum of a conversation at all. What I saw last night, which is awesome.
Well, and I did meet a few people that, um, like right off the bat, I was like, okay, hey, I already know that these people can help me with some of this other stuff. I know that some of these guys have products that fit very cohesively with like Boldly Free. I know other people, and that the chances are they're going to need IT services or whatever else. Um, but it's not my intention to go into there with that mentality. It's like, hey, how can I meet these people? How can I serve them? What can I do best and everything else? And what can we do to move forward with that mindset?
Yeah, absolutely. I think that's always the great way to approach it and stuff. And then it kind of sets that tone. And, and you might find out that, I actually didn't have the commonality that I thought I might with these people. And so at the end of the day, sure, you might have made some good connections and friends, but who knows, along your path, one of your friends is actually going to need one of their connections, right? So you might be able to provide that conduit for somebody as a worst case scenario as well.
Well, it's strange too that because consistency, like it's consistency that always creates predictable results, right?
Yep.
And because I've been consistently going out and meeting people, making connections, everything else, it's very interesting to where I can run into and recognize people almost anywhere I go now.
Yeah.
And they'll recognize me. And it's interesting too, because I know some of them in that they'd make comments asking certain things, and it clearly shows that they've been watching me and paying attention to like my Facebook stories or social media accounts or seeing what's going on in my family's life and everything else. So even though I had no clue that they were doing that, because I have the consistent results, because I've been consistently like, hey, look, I'm just trying to show up as the best person I can be. And that they see that, and that actually helps play into like, it helps people understand and see who you truly are as a person.
Yeah, it's genuine.
I'm not saying to put on this big facade or anything else. That's far from reality. The reality is like, you want to attract the like-minded individuals that that are cohesive with you and your mission and everything else, like what you actually want to accomplish, what you want to do. And like again, we are today in Arete, it does encapsulate a lot of our values in essence. Not saying that they're going to agree on every single thing 10 out of 10 times, but it would it does mean that we at least have same commonality values. Like we believe in everybody has the right of their own opinions and have their own expression, and that we believe in hard work and dedication and work ethic and family, and and when we have those, at least those core traits, that makes it really easy to connect and just be willing to do a business. And it's something that too, the biggest key is like, I'm comfortable trusting people with those values as well with my referrals. So if I know that these are their core values and they execute on it, and like their words matches their actions, I have no problem whatsoever handing whatever business connections or resources that I have to help them be successful.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, because I mean, it comes around, and that it's going to come into play. And so that's, in my mind, that is truly, as you were saying earlier, to speak into existence, right?
Yeah.
You speak that into existence, and that is because you become the person that you want to do business with, that you would trust with anything, that is reliable and that can make things happen, and isn't trying to sell, shove sales jargon down their throat. You're actually trying to serve them as a person.
Yeah.
You never liked a salesperson that just comes into your life and is like, hey, you need to buy this, this, and this. Well, I only need this. Oh, nope. You need to get this, all the bells and whistles and everything. See, you need the Porsche and everything with all the chrome and the turbocharger and all this other stuff. It's the coolest car. Why wouldn't you want it? Well, because it can't carry a pallet of good.
Exactly. Right. Like, yeah, they clearly didn't understand, who you were as an individual or what some of the needs were, on that level. But yeah, kind of speaking those things into existence. And I listened to a note by Ryan Stewman the other day, and he's like, the media, like, if you want a recession, go ahead and speak that into existence, right? It's like, you know, whoever's like, oh, there could be a recession coming. There could be. It's like, now you're speaking that into existence by kind of like bringing the tone down. And it's like, hey, I can't control what's going on outside the world around me, but I can control what I do speak to into existence, and I can control what I take action on and the environments that I put myself into. And so being in those rooms with like-minded individuals kind of reminded me of what Simon Sinek says is, so do people who believe what you believe and are driven by a cause. But then he also says, people don't care what you do, they care why you do it. And so why are you doing that? And so, so many people last night even, hey man, what do you do? What are you up to? What are some things that you do? And one thing that I observed is that you're talking to somebody that's in emergency preparedness. And then later on in that conversation, with some of the heavy equipment that you might have access to or for sale and stuff, you actually had a need that you could actually solve for him with the side project that he has going on that had nothing to do with his emergency preparedness, but you were able to build that rapport and that relationship with him. And then all of a sudden it's like, yeah, I have access to some people, equipment, things that I could assist you with. And there was like a natural fit for advancing a conversation. And it was just that next natural flow of just being a servant leader. And so to me, that was actually a great observation to kind of watch that play out with you and that other guy. I thought that was great.
Well, it's like it does help that I pretty much have my hand in almost everything, but it is truly trying to figure out, like, I understand that, like, for example, the equipment sales isn't really a focus for me. It's not even something I've really mentioned on this whatsoever, right?
Sure.
But the fact is I have equipment because I'm tired of being so abusive on my body, and it makes work a lot easier. And I
Yeah,
used to have
right tool.
obviously a construction company, and so I naturally have a lot of that stuff. And so for me, it's like, well, if I can help him and get a great deal on some of this other equipment, then either way that builds instant rapport, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
That's
And never once through
serving
that
him even
did
though it's
I
a little
hear,
bit.
yeah, I didn't hear you say at all, like, oh, well, if I help you with this equipment, are you going to, no, it wasn't even a thing, right? It didn't even exist. And so, but it was, yeah, hey, I have access to some of these equipment or people or services and stuff. Where's your project at? How can I help you out? What does that look like? What are you trying to accomplish? And it was great. Just a genuine, friendly conversation.
It was, for me, I looked at it as like, yeah, he needed equipment and everything else. And it's very easy to be like, yeah, I have, like, for example, I do have a skid steer sitting that I've actually been trying to sell, but that's like the sales. And anytime I see that coming out, then I immediately realize that I'm serving more of my selfish need at that point. And that's when I actually stop myself and be like, hey, well, what are you looking for? What do you actually need? And everything else. And then I verify, like, okay, because I don't want to project my wants onto him, right? Because
Yeah,
that's not serving. That's serving me. That's
sure.
not serving
The way
him
that
as
you'd
a
like to.
person and that. And so that's
Yep.
why I took that approach specifically, is like, hey, well, what do you actually need? What are you trying to do? And he's like, well, I really want an old machine, 10 to 20 grand. And I'm like, okay, well, I actually do have a machine that fits that. But
If you would have
hey,
led
what is the
with,
real
oh, hey,
goal?
I've got all this machine, you should buy it. It's like, forget you, pal. Like, that's not even, where we're going in the conversation. But the fact that you were able to genuinely ask questions and identify and, find out what's important to them, then it allowed him to see, oh, I have a gap in my journey that I need to bridge. And through this conversation, it sounds like you might have the ability to bridge that gap. And now he has the opportunity to ask you for assistance there. But what I love also about what you just said is that you touched on it without touching on it, but your social and emotional intelligence. You've worked on yourself to the point where you're like, hey, if I find myself self-serving, I know that that's a stopping point. I need to stop right there. And then I need to shift the conversation or shift the narrative for myself to then be back to that servant leadership and start asking genuine questions before you're serving yourself. That just doesn't happen. You know what I mean? Like people just don't know that about themselves. You have to do a lot of deep and self work to be aware of your surroundings and obtain that personal
It's a
situational
muscle that you
awareness.
develop.
It really is. And too many people don't develop it. And I need to work on it frequently as well. But I kind of watch it in just crowds of people or kids and different, volunteer activities and stuff like that, where people congregate that I'm a part of. Um, when someone is trying to come through and someone's having a conversation, especially with the kids, they're just completely oblivious that there's a big truck trying to make their way through the crowd. And they're just chit-chatting with their friends and they don't move because they don't bother to think, oh, there's a big giant vehicle coming right at me. I should probably step to the side so it can safely go and I could be safe too. But just the obliviousness of just being aware of your surroundings. And that is just one scenario, but people are a lot of times just completely oblivious to the surroundings around them. But it takes a lot of self and deep work to recognize that for yourself, and then to take action and stop yourself from going down a path you know that you don't want yourself to go down.
Absolutely. And it's very easy to, so this kind of goes in, and it doesn't really talk about manifesting or speaking to existence necessarily, but it does talk about, so we are all naturally mechanically, we're mechanical organisms, if you will, meaning that we all have circular cycles and we can spiral up or we can spiral down. Just like gravity, and that the natural recourse for all things is to degrade or to go down. And that, so us doing nothing, not working on ourselves, not doing anything, naturally has a digressive or degrading state. Just like if you had a new piece of equipment, left it in the yard for 10 years, it's naturally going to degrade.
Mm-hmm.
It's kind of its natural process in that, and just nature. So whatever's not worked on will die. That's how it works. So the other side of it is with the with the with this and what we're talking about. It's a matter of being able to say, okay, here's a trigger, and here's what it sets off. Just like a trigger on a gun or a trigger on anything else, that goes off and creates a chain reaction, right?
Mm-hmm.
Except for in a mechanism in that, that is a continuous cycle. So meaning if I talk to you a certain way, it will bring natural emotions out of you, which will then trigger your mechanical or biological sequence, which then triggers on someone else's, which then triggers someone else's, which then triggers something else, right?
Which could be positive or negative, right?
Exactly. And like, for example, I had a client that came to me that came back and is extremely, like, was being pissy, derogatory, everything else. And immediately, like, human nature is to be like very defensive,
Right.
and be like, hey, like, this is uncalled for, like, screw you, like, this is, I shouldn't be disrespected this way, blah blah blah. However, I've always taken the approach that there's something that I'm not seeing as part of the equation, and it's not about me. So
Yes.
typically anything else is that. And so if I want, and I understand too, because I've played out all these sequences, I've been through all these sequences, I know if I engage with that, there's only really all negative outcomes on how that's going to play out.
Right.
I feed into it, they cancel, and that I lose a valued client.
Yep.
I do it and I insult them or something, I still lose them. It potentially turns into a fighting match in that, which leaves a lot of resentment and contention in the relationship, even if we do continue business. Like, there's not really any great outcomes with me feeding into that. So because of that, I know that I can't do anything that would contribute to that.
Yep.
So that is where I look back at it and be like, okay, I'm trying to get this, and this done. This is what's going on with this, like we talked about, blah, blah, blah. And this is the progress and status of all these things, and that these are all resolved. However, I am concerned, and that with you right now, are you okay? Is there everything all right? Is there something I need to like be aware of that's causing you to act out, or act out on me,
Escalate or
or
whatever, right?
escalate
Like,
towards me this way? I can't remember the exact verbiage I used, but it basically was to that
yeah.
effect.
Hmm.
And they did respond and be like, "Hey, this was just one of those things, and that it was heavily weighing on me, and they just like my staff told me all this other stuff that obviously wasn't true, and I'm just overstressed and overwhelmed." I'm like, "Okay, I understand that. What can I do to help you?"
Hmm.
And that obviously pivoted the entire, diffused it
Yes.
instead of escalating it. And
And
so
it
that was
helped
the
them
biggest.
take ownership of their attitude, right? And like the way that they are treating you, and then realizing, oh, okay, I didn't need to be that way. And sure, it happened, but it wasn't all at you. Could have been like a miscommunication or all these external things that you didn't know about, but you could have got defensive over it. You could have got upset and threw it right back at them easily.
Well, this just comes down to what manifesting. I will manifest what I want, but I also have to be self-aware enough to know how my actions are going to play out,
Yes.
right?
Yep.
And how it's a cause and effect. And speaking to existence, like, hey, I want to speak in existence, like everything that I'm like, that regardless, and that I have their best interest at heart, that I am doing the best job and everything, that I am truly like coming to the table with value for them and their best interest, not just what I can monetarily gain off of them. Like, what
Yeah.
can I bring to their organization, to their life, to their peace of mind, to their stuff and like that? Because at the end of the day, I still will get compensated for that, right?
Yeah.
Like, there's that balance in that. As I serve other people, and that I will be served and everything as well. Um, and no, it's not always a fair balance.
No.
Not
Right.
by any means. I
I
mean,
think,
there's countless people.
yeah, the sooner you can get into the mindset of knowing that just things in life aren't fair, the better off you're going to be with that self-awareness.
Well, it's not just that. It's not just that life isn't fair. It is. It's the fact that people will not have like the same. Like, for example, you will never, even if somebody goes to you and says, "Okay, hey," um, or you go out of your way and you help them do all this other stuff and everything else, some of those people will mess you over the best, like the biggest in that, because they are just looking at their own selfish needs. The other side of it too is that there's a lot of people that only are trying to take in that, that see what they can still like take off of you or do things on that end. And then there is there's a lot of things that I'm trying to think of the best way to kind of explain this, but um, for example, we'll go with this one example. I took my father out to dinner and everything for Texas Roadhouse. Um, and that was just for Father's Day and that, so fairly recent. And we went to there, and this has nothing to do with work or anything else, but um, we were sitting down, and for some reason, I just had a prompting like, "Hey, I needed to help somebody there," and that there was an older couple that was sitting there. And as I watched their body behavior and everything else, that's just what I do. I'm a people watcher. I observe like behaviors, mannerisms, stuff like that, and I see how people are reacting, which kind of paints a good picture to me what's going on. And so when you see different body behavior, like where they're having to be very selective and they're looking specifically for whatever's like the cheapest on the menu, that to me immediately says like, okay, finances are tight for them,
Sure.
right? That they're a little
Especially
bit more
when,
reserved, and yeah, they're on a fixed income, they're on retirement, stuff is a little tight in that, but they're trying to treat each other and do that. And so I was like, okay, Well, I've been blessed enough that I can now help them, right? And so I just took care of it and just said, hey, just whatever they get, like take care of it.
Mm,
And
that's
then I
awesome.
didn't think anything of it. And apparently the waitress decided to rat us out, even though I told them not to. Um,
Oh boy.
so as we were leaving and everything, it was she so I was walking out and everything, and the lady like intercepted me, grabbed my arm and says, why would he do that for us? And um two things became very clear. One, she thought my father had been the one that did it. Um
Just yeah,
and
that's awesome.
and two, um I could have had everything, like I could have gone into that immediately, like, hey, I need the validation, right? And I need to be self-serving. But at the end of the day, you have to, if your intention matches your results in that, you will do something with no expectation of return.
Right.
Like
Which
that
is
is
how
truly
you went
self.
into it, right?
Yeah, exactly. So I had no intention on ever getting validation for that event. And the only reason I'm saying this now is because this is what will happen a lot of times in life. Not only will you not get the credit, but somebody else will get the credit for the actions in which you did.
Mm.
Is that fair? No.
Oh.
But at the end of the day,
Was
I
that the
didn't do
purpose?
it for that.
Yes.
Exactly. And I've also found that when you do enough of that stuff and everything, people will actually be my validation without me saying a word.
Yes. Yeah, your
Because
social capital, right? You have
because
other
people
people.
know that's who I am as a person. And so they'll correct the other people. I don't have to do that and everything. And I don't really care if they do or don't, because again, it's not the intent. And so even when she said that, all I did is I looked at her in the face and that, and some people might not like this, but this is my own beliefs and everything else. But I told her God is good. And that's it. That's all I left it at and everything. I was like, you have a blessed day, ma'am, and walked out.
Oh, that's so awesome.
So
That's
it,
great. No, thanks for sharing that. I mean, it's it's, and I know you didn't share that to like, hey guys, look what I did whatsoever. But it's like you're just aware of what's going on in your surroundings once again. And they say that 93% of communication is body language. Only 7% is voice. Um, and so being able to see what someone's clearly expressing, through so many places that doesn't have to be with their voice, but through their body expressions. And
well, when you are selfless, it allows you to see other things and other people and also the struggles that they're going through. And the more struggles that you've gone through, the more you're blessed to be able to see those things because you can pick up on those things.
yeah.
And the other thing too, and I think this actually ties into manifesting and that and what we want, right? Is because it became very clear because she was literally like basically crying and that when
Mm,
she asked me and that and asked why like my father would help her. Um it was like it became very clear to me in that moment that she didn't feel like her and her husband didn't feel worthy of being helped,
mm, mm.
didn't feel cared enough for to be helped or loved, didn't feel worthy of that.
Oh,
So that like
and I think there's a difference
that hit me.
between not feeling worthy of being helped uh, and then being able to be humble enough to take the help, right? Like, sometimes it's just your time to be served and things there, but then also like, yeah, like that's tough, right? Like it's got to be,
Yeah.
tough, tough to accept in many ways, right?
Well, that's what our pride is, right? Our pride is very easy, like, oh, I don't need your stinking money. I don't need this and everything. And then the selfish, there's the other toxic selfish, which is like, hey, just give me what you want. And that's like, oh, you gave me 20, give me that 100 that's in your wallet.
Yeah, yeah,
Right?
exactly. Oh
Yeah,
yeah,
it's the entitlement and everything, which is beyond irritating. But
Yes.
that's why I chose the approach that I did, and that because unfortunately, too often, and that there's a lot of people that don't feel worthy of being loved or helped or anything, and because nobody's willing to really look at anything besides their own needs, it's why everything gets into this self-serving society. So it's interesting that there's this paradigm. The more you give, the more you get back in that. And no, like in that instance, I did not get anything back, right?
Sure.
Well, okay, I did in a lot of sense.
Well, right, right. You didn't get the credit for it, and you publicly at least, right?
Yeah, and I mean it's very easy to argue in that that's like I'm getting credit for it right now, but at the same time, like I do stuff like this, and I'm not again saying this to boast or anything else.
Sure.
Whenever I see people that are struggling, and that whether it's at the grocery store, whether it's at this other like the restaurants or whatever else, that is kind of my fast offerings, if you will,
Sure.
my religious path forward in that. So because I've been blessed in my life to help, like I feel the need to bless other people that are struggling like I did. Because I remember also that I go back to when I was literally broke out of my wits end, working my butt off, 80 hours plus a week and everything, barely making ends meet, barely making that, having to scrounge in that, and making sure like when I took this one girl out, um, she ordered like the nice steak and everything, and I ordered pretty much just an appetizer, like a bowl of soup,
Sure.
and that because I was broke. Like I had to be more thoughtful about what I spent, and I wanted to make sure that she had at least a good meal on that. Um, and I remember just like the disappointment and like I hate that feeling. I hated that feeling. But I had somebody that I think that they saw the same thing I did in that older couple.
Yeah.
They saw that body language. They saw that, and they covered our entire meal.
Oh, it's incredible.
And that has always felt that's had a huge impact in my life. And it's allowed me, because of that person's actions and the way they made me feel at that time, and valued and cared about for the first time, like ever by some stranger. Um, it really humbled me enough to be like, okay. And so when I saw that lady going through some of the same emotions,
You knew it.
um, that's what that was truly the biggest gift. And it was a lot more than any monetary like thing that I could have given her.
Yeah.
Um,
Oh, that's
so
awesome.
it gave
Somebody
me that
paid it
kind
forward, and they're paying it forward allowed you to, receive that lesson, and receiving a pay it forward, and also, be able to get to the other side there. And so it's like, it seems like not only did they buy you a meal that day, but they bought you a great life lesson that you could apply and continue to pay that forward and apply. That's awesome.
absolutely. So that's why, even though that person probably never saw any return at that time, right?
Yep.
There's
Yeah,
still a
absolutely.
legacy impact that that person made. Um, and I don't know if the person that would that did that and everything would even be listening to this, but it was. I still remember like where I was, everything at that time. That's how burned and engraved it is into my head.
Yeah.
Um, but that's how we manifest our future and our legacy. What do we really want to be memorized? And so that's. I think we've talked about this briefly before, but what do we want written on our tombstone?
Sure.
And
Right.
then how can we tie our life and actions in that to manifest that? And it's not looking forward to the death, it's looking forward to the life that we left behind.
Yep.
Because like you can leave a toxic fest and a bunch of rot and decay and nothing left, and like, okay, well, that person was pretty much only good for fertilizer, and even then that's questionable.
And
Or
how awful would that be?
there's a lot of people like that.
Yep.
Unfortunately, I've even had family that was in that category, and literally everybody in my entire family was thankful they were gone. Like, it's sad. It really is.
It's heartbreaking and stuff because, like, you know, you kind of look at yourselves like, you know, that's not the legacy that I want to leave. Right. So you kind of do all you can here, but then it's like it's others. Your legacy is the interpretation of others that are left behind, it seems like. And so, what legacy are you going to be leaving behind? What impression are you going to leave behind? What's going to last into the future for what you've done, what you've served, how you've served, and things there. So, yeah.
Well, and that's why I'm trying to build something that's kind of like the Huntsman Institute, Cancer Institute, or you know, having these, which at least will stay online for hopefully after I'm gone, right? It might fade into the irrelevance of old school internet or something, but it still will pass on lessons and everything, which hopefully will be instilled in their family, which then pays it forward in other ways, right? It only takes one action. Again, that one action where I was served helped me serve countless people since.
Oh, that's awesome.
Because I mean, that's the only time I've ever had my meal paid for in my entire life. But I still feel like it had a monumental impact and game changing for me.
Yeah, so good. That's awesome.
So that's how, if you want to look at how you want to manifest and everything, look at truly what you're doing and keyword why you're doing it.
What and why. Yep.
Yeah.
Awesome.
Like if you're doing it just to manipulate that person to do business with you,
you've missed the point.
People know that they're being manipulated.
It's short lived.
You know, dang well.
Yep. See right through it.
Yeah, you will get other like-minded manipulative people, and it's a very toxic environment. Yep. But when you truly, and I know for a fact that I've literally had people ask me this, they're like, well, how can I get to that mindset where I actually want to serve other people? It says, well, and I've told people this time and time again, is just serving. Like go to the soup kitchen, go to the homeless shelter, go to some of these other places and literally just help people and watch. It's not just do it there and it's like, oh, this is stupid, this is ridiculous. And I want you to watch those people, watch the pain and everything that they're going through, watch the other stuff, and see how thankful they are to even have something as simple as a warm meal in their belly.
Yeah. And
then humble yourself and realize that you should be grateful. Like what you have is, there's always somebody that has it worse.
Yeah.
And when you keep serving yourself pieces of that humble pie, that truly gives you the perspective and the insight to be able to see through other people's eyes and step into their shoes.
Yep. It's going to help mold you. Absolutely. You know, that's a great place to start. Even like serving, you know, in your neighborhood or something, being out picking up trash, you know, like whatever it is, like just get out there and go and do it.
How you live life, and that is how you will do it. So even when people, like how you live life when nobody is watching is how you will live life in general.
Yeah.
There's no wrong, right? And so even when nobody is watching at all and you see trash on a trail, do you take that extra time of inconvenience to just pick it up and haul it to a garbage can? And it's like, okay, yeah, it's a half a mile away. Who cares? You're going to have to hold the trash for a half a mile. Oh my goodness. That's such an inconvenience. And they're like, and I've even been asked that when like I do stuff like that, is like, why would you do that? It's because it's like, well,
because it's the right thing to do.
I know.
And
it's not just the right thing in that, but I look at everything and I treat it as if it was my own property.
Absolutely.
And so like I would get pissed off if people left trash in my yard. And I would get upset and everything. And so I try to care for it and that. And so just like I would see if I saw trash in my yard, I would pick it up. Obviously it's not a really good metaphor right now because my whole yard is pretty much under construction, but
we go to mean for sure. But it is all about just that manifesting and you know, manifesting goodness into your life. Really, it's like that's what you can do is start there. Manifest those good things in your life. Start with affirmations. Show gratitude. I start my day every day with documenting 5 things that I'm grateful for, and I've done it for over 1,200 days straight in a row without missing a single day and stuff. And so just starting somewhere is the way to go. So Dude, this has been
Well,
a
I
phenomenal
know that we need to
conversation.
go
It
here
really
too.
has.
Yeah, I did. I think this was a great one, and that to at least get into and that because it's a lot more powerful than people like to give it credit for. Um, so like, is the final thought, and is there any other example, like even in your life, in that of what you've, well, obviously writing some gratitude things and everything that helps you like sit back and think about even when your life is shit and everything. It's easy to come up with when your life is good. It's easy to come up with five things and do generic
Sure.
responses like
Oh yeah,
your kids,
exactly.
your wife, your blah blah blah.
Yep.
It really is a testament when things are going to hell. Like, can you truly like still look at the positive and what you can find that's good in your life? That's one thing that's worked amazing, even on my kids is we will actually make them list a win that they've had for the day.
Sure.
And so they're like, hey, because my daughter, like all the time, used to literally come home and that and would be like, it was the worst day ever. I was like, okay, well, what was a win for you? And
Yeah.
it took time, but we allowed her to see like, what is the little thing that you're thankful for? What is something that you were able to accomplish and everything else? And so
Yeah.
by slowly making her think about that and shifting her perspective, it's had a massive change on her depression and other stuff that she was suffering with.
Yep.
Just simple things. So
Exactly.
I know that you have some value that you can add there. Like, what is the simple thing for you that has made all the biggest difference?
Yeah, no, I'm right there with you. I mean, just being part of the Scouts growing up and leaving a place better than you found it. I think that also attributes to humans as well. Leave a human better than you found them. Earlier this morning, I had a call with a rep out of Chicago, and just through our conversations and stuff, he's like, "Yeah, I know I need to learn your division's products and services and stuff," but he's like, can you help me be a better professional at sales? Can you help me with better technology? Can you help me? And it wasn't, I didn't lead into it with, hey, look how good I am at doing this or that or anything like that. But he was impressed by the way that I think that I handled myself and the way that I was able to help serve him and his colleagues, his teammates, in the way that helps them make their lives easier in helping serve the needs of their customers. And so through that, he's like, I want more of that in my life. I want more of this fluidity and this like convenience of just making it easy for people to do business with me. He's like, you're really good at all that stuff. And he just kind of like was noticing these things. He goes, I don't care if I have to actually pay you out of my pocket on the side. I want more of whatever you're doing. And he didn't know exactly what I was doing, kind of articulate, but he's like, you could just tell that there was just like an ease of way of I was doing things that he wanted more of in his life, which is an honor to me and a deep honor to me. And so our conversation had nothing to do with our quote unquote products and services, but had everything to do with how can I help him show up better for his customers and colleagues. So just one small example, just happened an hour ago, that really wasn't expecting to be that way, but it was trying to be that social intelligence, that emotional intelligence, aware of my surroundings, aware of what his needs were, and then finding ways that I can serve him. Because I've developed this theory over the years of the more I talk about things that have nothing to do with my products and services, the more I've earned the right to talk about things that have everything to do with my products and services. And you exemplified that last night. I saw that in action as well. So yeah, I don't know. One example there.
Oh, it's great, man. And honestly, that if you really think about it, that is that's probably one of the biggest reasons that we gravitated towards each other in the first place too, is because I like saw like, yeah, you're a very wholesome dude. You're trying your best and everything. It's not that you're perfect or I'm perfect by any means
No, 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 no.
necessary, especially me. I'm a little
Especially
defective
me.
sometimes. um, but the fact is that I can still see that you are still trying to step up and show up consistently in your life and do the best you can in every aspect. And I was like, well, that's truly what it encapsulates for the Consult ROI mentality. Like, what is the best ROI for your time? And honestly, you've been a great value on our show consistently. And so I,
Oh, that means a lot to me.
yeah,
Thank you.
it's something like, be honest, like, you hold me accountable to make sure that this actually happens consistently. Which is great. I love that accountability, and I love that, like, the energy that you bring in that in a lot of these, and even like the stuff that has nothing to do with it, where occasionally we'll go off on those little tangents, like the treasure hunt. Like, I freaking love it. So it's always been great to not only call you like a colleague in that, and a business association here, but also a friend in that sense. So
Thank you. And likewise, 100%.
anyways, if you guys, before we get too mushy here,
Turn this into a bromance and stuff. We better cut it off there. But thank you. I appreciate you. Thank you.
yeah, well, again, I appreciate everything that you've done to help make this happen and everything else. And if you guys did get any value again out of the show, we deeply appreciate it. And I really challenge you guys to see if you have time and everything. It takes 5 minutes, but just send a message, and that's to Danny at DannySentMe.com if you ever need help with some of his sales training or anything else. Where you can also go on boldlyfreeamerican.com and use what was the code that we did? Is it Danny sent me, or is it Danny?
I can't remember what the code was. Is it Danny? I can't remember. But you know what? Message us and we'll hook you up. How about that?
Yes, you will get a code, and he actually gets the full percentage in that. So anything that actually goes directly to that man is kind of a generous thing to that, just to show the appreciation. So I will try to make sure that we have that by next podcast.
Oh, all right.
I'm trying to
buy up
remember
the whole site, everybody. Then, okay.
the side note and everything. Shameless plug for Danny here.
Oh man, I'll take it.
All right, guys. Well, thanks for joining us, and we hope you have a blessed day.
Peace.